Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a transformational coach. I facilitate the Clarity Catalyst. I'm the founder of Morning Magic Membership. I also lead retreats here in Australia and internationally. I love all things self-mastery, mindset, and personal development. Here on this podcast, I bring you some pretty exceptional women. We talk all things creativity, business, love, life, and moving forward with self-awareness. I also come to you from time to time with a solo podcast with lots of life according to Emma moments where I share some tools and also some, hopefully, inspiration for you to take the next step. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. Today I am joined by a dear friend, but also a very inspirational woman in this world, Madonna the Goddess. She is a body positive queen. She's a curvy model, an empowerment photographer, and she also runs retreats around the world for women. She is all things body positive, and she is a wealth of information. And I cannot wait to chat to my dear friend today and have all of you privy on our very juicy conversation. Welcome, Madonna.
Thank you, Emma. Well, that was a pretty cool description. I actually was like, you've created this life, Madonna. Wow. It sounds pretty exciting. Yeah. So I basically, Emma, created a job for myself that embodied who I am inside, right? Like all of my favorite things, travel, building other women up and creating space for them to have sisterhood and connection in their lives and find a place for that quiet moment to find their center again, right? Also makeup and fun and glamour and photography and a hot photo, right? Never made anybody feel better. So incorporating all those things in my life. And then, incorporating that as well into my influencing work with body positivity. Yeah.
And I absolutely love your work. I know we met back in 2019. We were blessed before the world went bananas. You were here in Australia from the USA, and we were very blessed to meet each other through a family member for you and a friend for me. We met through a mutual friend, which was just delightful. And I remember, the first time I met you, just thinking this woman is an absolute ray of sunshine. And I don't think you understand your magnetic nature and your magnetic heart and soul that you have. And just recently, Madonna was here in Australia and we had a chance to hang out together as Madonna brought a group of women here to Australia for a retreat, a body positive retreat. And I was so grateful that you included me in on that retreat, and just watching you do your work with women is truly inspiring. And then when we got to hang out together, watching the way that you move through the world with such joy and beauty, absolute blessing, my love. So I do want to ask a question, though. I do want to get into this podcast because I want people look, this seriously could just be a love fest. We could just be loving on each other.
Thank you for those beautiful words. Thank you so much. Yeah.
My goodness, I adore you. So the first question I want to ask my darling Madonna is, what inspired you to start your journey as a body positive activist?
Wow. Okay. So this is an interesting journey that I took. About 10 years ago, I was led to seek out some training in terms of facilitating women's empowerment circles, life coaching, do moon circles for women, that type of thing in my life. Learn to facilitate some sort of healing for women in my life, right? And so I sought out a retreat group and I went and trained to become a facilitator for the retreat group. That would mean that I could run moon circles, run retreats for sisterhood, and basically utilize the already kind of set in place retreat format, right? And so I became certified to run these retreats and then in turn life coach, and kind of developed on that work with women in the world. A lot of self-love, positive self-care practice, intentional work, really beautiful work. But I kind of always knew that there was something deeper coming through my work. Like I would start at that platform and then something might come through. And about 5 years ago, I went on a trip to Africa, and I really went through a dark night of the soul, right? And I went through this emotional awakening and decided out of the blue that I would return to modeling, because I was a plus size model. I've been since I was 17. I've been with the same agency in Seattle since I was 17 years old. But I've really kind of took a break for many years in raising children, and in my life wasn't really going that hard at it. Would just take jobs here and there and really hadn't done much with it. So I decided to go back about 5 years ago and started working again. Shortly thereafter, within a few years, the pandemic happened and everything shut down. And my agency told all of us the way to go, the way to keep working, because runways will shut down, there will not be print, and there wasn't for almost a whole year. They said was to start influencing, get your name out there, get your influence out there, so brands will hire you in that format, right? You can film everything, do everything that you have control, and essentially your agency, your rep, your everything. It was a beautiful idea, and I'm really grateful to my agency for suggesting it, because very quickly, within I'd say within a few months, I had built a following of over, about 50,000 people within that period of time. It happened very naturally and very fast for me. And that's evolved, just over time. But I saw very quickly that there was a need for plus size influencers. There was a need for my message. There was a need for people to get their eyes on a beautiful woman who had confidence and poise at a larger size, right? At a plus size, in a curvy body. And I also saw that there was a need for women my age too, because I also rep age positivity, and I'm 46 years old now, and I'm in a world of influencers that's in their 20s. So yeah, I saw that there was a need for me to anchor space in the community. But I'll be honest with you, it genuinely was a natural unfolding. I just believed in, I like you say to me with your coaching with me, because yes, I get to coach with Emma. But you say we're building the rocket ship on the way up. It was very much like that, Emma. I don't know. A lot of times I don't know why I'm drawn to post something, or so drawn to share a message, but it's very much universal. Like, I do feel like I'm called by the universe to do this work, and I'm sent downloads and messages to share with the beautiful women that are in my fold. So yeah,
I would agree. You are absolutely a conduit for beauty and good and love for women, without a doubt. Women in your presence are just lit up. And, back to that, example that I gave when you were here and we were in Mullumbimby at that beautiful spa. And Madonna and I had this beautiful experience of going to a spa together and having a massage and just hanging out. But it was really interesting. There was particularly two young women in that spa that were drawn to you like bees to a honey. Like they wanted Madonna's Instagram, and just to witness that gave me so much joy. And those girls were they 18, 19? I think they were.
Yeah, we were surprised because one had just turned 18, and it was like, she was a very young girl. Yeah, they were very young girls. Yeah.
And just the way that they couldn't help, for the visual for everyone listening, if Madonna was in the magnesium pool, they were in the magnesium pool with her. If she was in the hot tub, they were in the hot tub with her. But just to watch that, they wanted to talk to you and they wanted to hear about you. And that was and you just to connect with them. But it was really that example of a woman who is absolutely comfortable in who she is, joyful, in delight. Like, that is undeniable. That is, like I say, yeah, just bees to honey. It was just gorgeous. So I loved that. But I do want to ask another question. And this one, I absolutely love this question, because this is a meaty question. It gets to the heart of the matter. So how do you navigate critics who might question body positivity and the impact on health?
Such a good question. Yeah, I mean, if this is not my most popular question, I mean, great question, Emma, honestly. So the first thing I want to say is to love your body, and to love your body and to take care of your body are two totally different, like in terms of your healthcare regimen and your eating and all of that is very separate to the way you love yourself, right? The way you speak to yourself and nurture yourself. And so they're not synonymous. They're two totally separate things. You can absolutely be working on a healthcare regimen, be taking care of your nourishment and your nutrition, and learning new ways to develop on that, and even maybe possibly learning more healthful practices, as well as loving yourself, telling yourself you're precious and you're worthy and you're wonderful, building yourself up by wearing things that make you feel special and make you feel worthy of being seen, right? And it's the same thing as we teach in coaching, where you teach yourself how to love yourself, right? Like, so the way you surround yourself in the world, the way you pick the things that you surround yourself with, and love and care for yourself. Let's say you're picking a bottle of wine. Well, picking a very special one that makes you feel special when you pick it, right? There's a vibration, right? It's like a high vibration versus a low vibration. Well, I think when we pick that higher vibration, we're telling ourselves we're worthy, we love ourselves, and that we can take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves in this way. And it's the same thing with how we speak to ourselves, nurture and care for ourselves with our thoughts. So for you to think that you have to be mean and degrade yourself to become healthier doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I'm sorry that people think that the path to health is by treating yourself badly, because I think it's absolutely the opposite. And I also want to introduce the concept that there are all different body types, and we don't always know what is healthy on somebody. I was a competitive ice skater and hip hop dancer in the 90s. When I first started modeling, I was only a size, I would say for you guys, it's probably like a women's size 8 because it's a 12 here. And I think you're 2 sizes smaller on your size charts.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been like a size 8 when I plus size started modeling, that if that tells you anything, right? So when I did that, there was, by treating myself poorly, I wouldn't have made any difference. Like, do you understand what I mean? I basically,
Yes.
like, I needed to build myself with kind words of encouragement and nourishment. And I'm so grateful that I went down the path of plus size, because it actually, at the same time as kind of, so basically what happened was I was signed on as a model, as a standard Mrs. model, and the plus size market emerged simultaneously. And at that time, they said to me, would you like to convert to plus size? And I took the chance and I took the leap and said, yeah. Basically, they said, there's not much you have to change. You might have to gain, you might have to just stay right there, right? Like, not lose anything. And so basically, yeah, I saw the path with plus size modeling, and I thought it was so important to anchor a space of self-acceptance. Yeah. I'm sorry if I got off the subject there. I kind of went on a
No,
tangent. But yeah,
no.
I think it's important, whatever stage you're at, to love and nourish yourself with healthy thoughts, healthy self-care practice, and wearing things that make you feel confident and beautiful. So
Mm.
I don't think that when you're plus size, or when you're going through a time where your body's maybe not in its best prime condition, that it's a time to, I think that's a time to lean into self-love and wearing things that make you feel special, and telling yourself how beautiful and worthy you are. I don't think it's time to lean into self-flagellation and unkindness and treating yourself poorly. So,
I
and
agree. I
that's
mean,
really
that,
the message they're saying,
yeah.
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Madonna, when you said that to me before we hit record, that was a massive light bulb moment for me. You saying that body positivity and health are two different topics. And, from a woman who is in a larger body and has definitely grappled with acceptance around that, like you say, if you're beating yourself up and rejecting your body all the time, that's not self-love. That's got nothing to do with health. And you gave the
Yeah.
example before. What was the example you give around if you had a broken ankle? Tell me about that
Yeah. If you
example.
have, no healthcare practitioner, no wellness coach is going to tell you if your ankle is broken, or if you've got some malady, something going on with your body that's maybe not the way it normally is. It's not its normal, right? And that's a lot of times what we notice when we get back on healthcare regimen. We're like, maybe you're not walking up hills as easily, you're not, things aren't quite coming as easily for you, and you realize, I need to get back into some more cardiovascular health, I need to seek out some healthier eating regimen, I've gotten kind of out of practice with everything. Well, that's a time to lean into self-care. Just like if we hurt our ankle, or if we'd hurt, it's a time to love ourselves more and see that there's something going on. Generally there is, honestly, when we have things like that. Somebody maybe they just stopped going to Pilates because their heart is kind of sad, honestly, and they are down and they don't feel like they have acceptance in the world, or that they're worthy of seeing friends and loved ones at a Pilates class or spending the money to go to the Pilates class, right? Whatever it is, it's a marker of something deeper going on. And it's certainly like, it is not a fucking time to speak unkindly to yourself, or to treat yourself with, with like you're not worthy of the things that you want to do for yourself. And I genuinely think that's what these people think when they post these things to me. They're saying like, how can you love yourself? And I say this with love, because I think that these people are really tortured and hurting because they've been taught a narrative that you have to look a certain way or be a certain way to be beautiful in the world. And some of the healthiest women I know, I hope you don't mind if I use you as an example for this,
Go
because
for
you're
it.
a tremendous example for this. When I met you in 2019, I was at a yoga class, and I'm so grateful that my cousin took me, because she said to me, I think that this is a beautiful teacher for you, because she is a curvier girl and with the most beautiful figure, who really teaches such a strong, strength-filled yoga class. And I think you need to see that curvy bodies exist and are strong and really function just as beautifully, right, as some of the slimmer bodies that we've been taught to covet and try to emulate. But the truth is, some of the healthiest, strongest women, Serena Williams, a lot of incredible athletes, are thick, curvy girls, strong, thick, curvy girls. And I think that we need to understand that there are all different body types, and there's all different views of beauty, right? So when I went to that class, I remember watching. Now, Emma, when I say curvy, to me, you're a strong, we call it in America, thick. Do you guys use that term in Australia, thick
You can
girls?
call me thick. Call it
It's
thick,
a
babe.
beautiful, I think that's a beautiful word, because it's so descriptive in my mind to me, saying thick on it. I love that term. So thick, meaning I could see how to functionally move my body if I wanted to get in those poses. I was empowered to do poses because I was watching you do them, and you were just absolutely stunningly beautiful. Like it was really a very light bulb moment for me. We were meant to meet. I mean, truly, like our souls were meant to meet when we met, because I went home and leaned into more of my healthcare practice and my taking care of my body and stretching, and really employed a lot of the yoga that I learned when I was with you. So what I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say in all of that, is that having more women like yourself and myself out there showing that there is strength and beauty in all different body types, and it isn't just the one that we were taught on Baywatch. I'm sorry to use that as the descriptor,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's not. That's not it. And
Yeah.
there's lots of beautiful, strong women who have beautiful, big, strong bodies.
Oh, thank you, my
And
darling. Yeah.
yeah,
And that was, yeah, we were so meant to meet. And also, you have been very, the recent trip that you had here, and we sat in circle and you asked a really powerful question, which was, what's your body story? And oh my goodness, like, even for me just to sit in that circle and start to even explore that was deeply emotional. As we cried, we laughed, but
yeah,
it's just even exploring that thing. And I love how you say that, so many different examples of what a strong body looks like. And just recently I was chatting to a woman who is a dietitian around intuitive eating. And she gave this example. And I thought, and it's exactly what you just said to me before we hit record, when you're in another country, because you hold these beautiful retreats for women all around the world. And what country were you in, and you seen a different example of a body? What
yeah. Thank you
yes.
for bringing this up. Yeah. So I was saying, when I was in Tulum, which is really, that's really the base of Mexico. You're in the Yucatan. You're almost to Central America at that point.
Yeah.
So, and you're around the Mayan culture there, and it is such a vastly different size. Like, because I come from, I believe, like, my heritage is, my dad is Ukrainian, but I think it's German Ukrainian, I think, and mom is Irish, Scottish, Australian, right? Yeah. So it's a larger woman. It's a strong, a curvaceous, thick woman, usually, that
Yeah.
beautiful Norwegian, all that.
Yeah.
Um, but you get to the Mayan culture, and we're talking like the women were very commonly under 5 foot, very narrow frame, with not a lot of like, just such a vastly different frame to mine. I
Yeah.
remember being struck and just thinking, God, we're so messed up. Like, how do we hold each other to this beauty standard when we're not even close? We couldn't even be on the same size chart, a woman like that and myself.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? That wouldn't make any sense. Like the difference between my waist and my hips. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable the way that our bodies can appear and function differently, right? And we expect to be
Yes.
on the same. You should weigh the same amount. You should.
The
You
height,
should.
the weight, yes. And that is a
Yeah.
great example of a woman who is still able to be strong and function exactly the same way as you and I, bear children and do all those beautiful things, and has a completely different body. And this woman,
Totally.
this woman I spoke to last week, she described it to me and I was like, oh my goodness. And she was talking about intuitive eating, and she's a dietitian, but now she's really bought into intuitive eating. And she was talking about, she said, our body frame and shape, and exactly like you're just saying, then you're Irish, Australian, Scottish, me too. You've got the German on the other side. I've got the Nordic. So we're a different
Exactly.
body, right? And then she was saying it's no different than different breeds of dogs. We cannot expect a Great Dane to do what a Chihuahua does. It's just, and she said
Well
it.
said.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is what we're expecting. That's a beautiful example when you went to, that area and you noticed that women, that's like, just becoming, it means we're all valuable, we're all beautiful, we're all fine, but we come in different shapes and sizes. And she also said we have no more control over the body than we do our shoe size. How is it my shoe is this size and yours is that? Like it's how we
Yeah.
come.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I had a healing with an Aboriginal healer years ago when I was in Australia.
Yeah.
When I think the time when I was there meeting you, and I remember he spoke to me, and I was having a hard time with some body acceptance. I wasn't deeply grounded in this work yet, and I was having some issues. And I remember just really reaching out to him, and he said to me, he said, we choose our body we bring into this lifetime, right? He goes, you choose it. You know the challenges. You know what this body will do for you, how it will hold you back, the ways it'll cause you to grow, the breakthroughs you'll need to make to love and accept yourself. I just remember, like, it gives me chills every time I think about it, because he said, you need to pick up your sword and fight, girl. You're down there on the ground like you didn't come in with the goddess body.
Oh.
Right? You're down there on the ground. It gives me tears. You're down there on the ground in the dirt, and you didn't come here with that body of a goddess. And I remember changing my Instagram name and saying, fuck this. I'm not gonna cower anymore to this power. I'm a big girl. I remember being so afraid when people would say that about me. That was horrifying. If I heard them say, oh, she's a bigger girl, or well, I am.
Yeah.
Do you have a zit on your forehead? Maybe. I'm a bigger girl and I love it. Like, I have a bigger frame, and it's nurturing and loving and ready with arms wide open for my babies and anybody that needs love. Right?
Yes,
I
yeah.
brought this body in for a reason, to nurture and love women and the people
Yes,
around.
you did. And that is what
Yeah.
you do so well, so well. Now, I've got one more question, then I want you to tell us about how you help women in the world. But firstly, I want to ask, so was someone deeply committed in reshaping beauty standards? What do you hope to see in the future?
Yeah. So this is a great question. My ultimate goal, I think, with anybody who's doing something progressive and creating a different frame of mind for other people to witness and hopefully grab onto or not, is to change things and change the narrative and change the things available and possible in everybody's minds, in the minds of people perceiving the larger frame person and the larger frame person, what's possible and how much they can do in their life. And they're not fucking held back by this, right? And they can do everything that they want to do. They don't need to put things on hold in their life. That's another big thing. Maybe on a personal level, I hope I shift that in people's minds. I hope I empower them to live their life now and not to put it on hold for when they've lost the 20 pounds. That's the saddest shit I've ever heard, when you see a woman with a beautiful dress or nightgown or something like that, and they're putting it on hold until they lose enough weight. We all know this girl, right? That's
Yeah.
like the dress that they show you, and they're like, as soon as I lose this many pounds, I'm gonna wear it. Well, fuck that. I just get the size up and I wear it next week. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah. And that's something I've really embraced now too, because that was the old Emma. I would go, I'll get that when I'm size X, Y, Z. And
Oh,
now
sure.
I have absolutely no qualms in buying the next size up. It was almost
Yep.
like a thing I had to get over because, conditioning and the story I'd told myself. But, thankfully, I'm way more free around that now, and quite
Yeah.
openly can say I'm a size 16 and that's okay. Because and I'm not going to stop my life either. And you're a big one around travel. So even you said around the dress, how many people
Uh,
would stop their life around travel and go, I won't go on that vacation or that trip until I'm X, Y, and Z. And also the big work that you do, which I love. And I actually have been blessed to experience your magic. The photos you took of me when we were here in Australia, when you were here in Australia, I just, I love those pictures. But the way you got me to move in my body to get those photos, that almost that coaching you took me through to move in my body and be photographed. And I'm using those photos, as you see, on Instagram, and I can't wait till next time. But the way that the work that you do with women, even around that, because how many women in a larger body will not get photographed?
Oh, well, that's, because the photography I specialize in is boudoir. So that's all intimate photography, meaning you're wearing lingerie, you're wearing, panties, you're wearing a sheer nightie, you're wearing, it's all about seeing yourself in an intimate way, right? Like seeing yourself in a sensual, deeply intimate way. And so, yeah, the ways women want me to disguise their body or won't be seen in certain ways, it really makes my heart sad. So a lot of the women that come to me haven't been photographed in 5+ years, haven't shown up in a family photograph, haven't done, it's unbelievable, right? And I will say that before I went through this deeper work, there was a period of time in my life I don't appear in photos because I didn't love and accept myself. I mean, we always have to walk our own path, right? So
Yeah.
I went through my own awakening and path, and I know my kids are even sad that there's a time period that I'm not in photos with them. So yeah, I think many women hold back from the joys of life based on size and how they're perceived by the world.
Yeah. Yeah. But
It's
you are
scary, right?
doing, yeah, it is scary. It's sad. Like you say, it's a sad heart, but I love the fact that you're doing this work in the world. And I am
Yeah.
so grateful to be, you're a dear friend of mine and that I get to actually experience this with you. So now let's talk about, you have got the amazing body positive workshop coming up in October, but you've got you're off to Greece next week on a women's retreat. That's sold
Yeah.
out, that retreat, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is sold out, and this is an annual retreat I'm going to do. I had such a transformation. I know you know this on a personal level, but I had such a transformation in Greece. It was such a Mamma Mia moment for me, like this huge opening and expansion, and I saw, truly, Emma, I was a newly single girl when I traveled to Greece, and I saw how much love and acceptance there was for the plus size form in Europe, and just celebration, right, of curves and beauty and loving yourself and confidence, because that's truly what people are taking in as confidence.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times when somebody's complimenting you on being beautiful, it's because you're embodying and loving yourself and embracing yourself, right? That's what's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry, lead me back to the question.
Yes. So body
In
positive workshop. So you've got Greece,
yeah,
that's
so we're gonna
sold
be,
out. And then,
you know, so Greece, and then I will be headed to Leavenworth, Washington, and Whidbey Island. I've got 2 local retreats here in Washington, and then in January we'll be in Iceland.
oh,
And in February okay, so Greece is sold out, but I still have space on the next ones that I'll tell you. So if anybody's interested, I've got a few spots here and there, just a
great.
few for these ones, but I've got no, Iceland is sold out. I apologize, I take that back. Iceland is sold out. So Iceland in January. I do have spots for Tulum. We're going back to Tulum. That's an annual one that I do again. Stunningly beautiful Tulum, and that's in Mexico. And then in March, I'll be on the Highland road trip in Scotland, seeing all the sights from Outlander and taking all that magic in. And then my dream trip, which I'm like, I feel like I'm going to have that big awakening like I did with Greece, but we're going to the Amalfi Coast. So
Oh,
we'll be doing the Amalfi Coast and Positano and all of those things in April. And then I'll be back to Byron to see you in July. I take a few months in between there so I can kind of get myself grounded. But and then lots of new big announcements. I'll be going back to Africa next year. I'm going to announce that soon. And I believe joy lives in the body, Emma. I believe that
yeah.
we hold those memories, so does sadness and pain, right? So
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to recycle it with these joy-filled experiences that
Yeah.
replenish and refresh and renew the cells, and just it just creates new life in our body, right? Like yeah. So I believe, one of the, I just learned this concept, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but
Share it.
that there's a fire, and when everything is destructed, right, the first thing that regrows is these mushrooms and this fungi to take care of, like, the muck and to replenish the earth, basically. And that mycelium holds like the coding of the universe, and it's so interesting. That's why people microdose it and take it, because they believe you can really uplevel your consciousness with it, right? But I believe it's the same thing with the body positivity work, the thoughts that we create in our mind, the way that we plant seeds for ourselves, that's just going to create and spread and create more life and growth in our lives, right? Like, it's going to replenish and refresh as we create and turn over our thoughts with more positive ones, with these body positive thoughts, and we create more joy in our life. So creating these joy filled experiences that say fuck yes, and say I can do anything I want, and I'm empowered, because that's the truth. You can do anything the fuck you want. It's about
Yeah.
you deciding and aligning with it. I know
Yeah.
that's deeper, that whole message,
No, but
yeah,
I
live into the
also,
body.
yeah,
Yeah.
I also think it is absolutely imperative who we spend our time with. So, for instance, hanging out with you totally gave me that transformation around my body. And look, I was talking, I want to accept and I'm okay in my body, but there were still parts of me that had little hooks. So spending time with you and the women in Byron, like, that was a whole new awakening. And then, me sharing about that experience, us at the spa, and just how you were just so magnetic. I mean, you just walk your talk, and being around women and going to a retreat, or fully like having that immersion where you are absolutely all on that message and that path. That's where transformation happens, when you're actually watching people embody, instead of it just being a concept, or wouldn't that be nice if I actually loved myself or embodied myself, but it's actually a goddamn practice.
Hell
It's
yeah, it is.
daily practice, and you've got to have strong women and women around you that are also practicing that, because the messaging and the bombardment of the outside world, it's almost like you've got to build up a force field around you that says, when you're like, the example of me in Byron Bay with you women, I built up a force field around me that said, no, here is the example of women who are strong, healthy, vivacious, gorgeous, intelligent, walking an amazing path, and are absolutely brilliant in their own right. Because then you step out into the world and the message is very goddamn different. It's so different. And even like we've discussed today, it's mixed in with health. It's screwed up with health,
Well,
like
and then
you
you have
say,
to factor in also misinformation, that because I have a
misinformation.
wider hip frame that I'm at, let's say I'm at it, even an ideal, I'm putting myself in the vernacular. Let's say I'm at an ideal weight and I have a larger hip frame. Well, that doesn't mean that I'm not in as deeply good a health as that slimmer gal who has a more narrow hip frame, who appears in what the beauty standard says is perfection, right? Or is the standard. The truth is, like, that's why we can't compare against each other like that, because we
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
that
And I
variable
also
is.
want to acknowledge too, I have two beautiful women in my life that have almost the opposite to what I've had. So I've had almost like the body that said it's too big and it's not good enough. And I've also got two beautiful women in my life that one doesn't have any boobs. She's got a small boob, and one doesn't have a waist. So then she's felt like she's not good enough either. So, the message of her was, well, you're like a surfboard, and you've got no hips. So then that whole thing she's felt almost like in the opposite, she's not good enough. So even though our discussion, because you and I both are in your words, thick bodies, curvy bodies,
Girl,
because we know it from this perspective, but I also acknowledge that there are beautiful women who have it on the other extreme.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's back to that beauty standard, which doesn't give us all different shapes, sizes, big boobs, small boobs, big bums, flat bums, big thighs. No, we've just not been shown a plethora of beauty. We've been shown one ridiculous standard.
Well, exactly, and it's the hardest standard in the world to adhere to.
Yeah.
mean, it is, that I was told by a continuing education coach recently, they said, most of what people compare themselves up against is their high school self, right? Like they're right out of college or right out of high school self. The truth is, like, that is a predecessor to our body, truly, like as women, because once we go through childbirth or go through childbearing, have a baby or pregnant, our bodies change and shift so much. I don't know about you, but mine shifted so much. Like, I'm not even just so much. Like, I had a wider hip frame. I had my one of the cool things, my waist was more narrow because my hip frame widened a little bit. But so much shifted and changed, right, as a result. And I think it's so interesting that we hold ourselves to that standard. Like, how sad is that, right? That like we'll never be that again. Never.
No,
and the only ways people get to that is by doing things that are probably very adverse to like a normal healthcare regime. I mean, so we even know that when you take healthcare to extremes, like in terms of fitness regime and that you actually harm yourself, and people get sick and lose hair and lose muscle tone and all sorts of stuff, right, as a result of these things. So there's also really unhealthy practice that happens for people to adhere to these standards. And that's why I'm really cautious. And I also tell people in my work that what's really important is we don't always need to comment on each other's bodies to each other either. Right? Like, it's okay that we never say anything. People, I know you grew up with this, I guarantee, but wow, you look really great in that photo. Have you lost weight? That's my favorite comment. I don't understand. Like, I look that great because you think I lost weight. Like, you're not wondering if I'm wearing a new foundation or who did my hair last or what. You're worried about. I mean, and I don't. I say this with all the love in the world because most of the lovely women a few years older than me do this in my life. It's their favorite compliment. I all the time have to remind people, like, I don't need you to comment on my body size or my frame. I'm very comfortable with who I am, and I appreciate that you think it's a lovely photo, but we don't need to comment on my body specifically in the photo. And no, I haven't lost any weight.
yes, it is, but it's almost like people almost feel somewhat uncomfortable, particularly family, and they have to feel like they have to mention something. It's fascinating.
But they also, Emma, and this age group, women, I mean, I hate to say that's my mom's age group, and I hope she doesn't hear this portion, but she would say this too, that being thin is next to godliness. Like, if you're thin, remember that I can remember my mom and her hen group or her group of girlfriends getting together. I'm sorry, I have to adjust a little here. Getting together, and you could hear them going through the line of their diets that everybody was on.
Yes.
Well, hers is working really well. She's looking really good. She's doing really good. They'd all be on that one, or this one. And well, there's got to be deeper conversation for us as women than what diet regime we're on. Like what diet we're adhering to, what fat-free food we just found, come on, there has to be. Tell me there is, or I'm just gonna be done.
There is, but that's what they did. And it makes me laugh because if we were to bring out some Women's Weekly or New Idea, the Australian magazines, we would probably all be laughing and going, what the heck, this diet, that diet, like the cabbage soup diet, the shake diet, the bloody pumpkin diet, the pea diet, like, madness.
And I will say, I'm just gonna, and we'll leave this for another time because I think it's an interesting conversation, that I will say the Australian, this is a subject emerging in Australian consciousness. You guys are definitely far more diet conscious. For good reason. I mean, you guys are a very healthy, beautiful culture. And I know that, like, my mom has always taught me, you're a beach culture. It's a swimsuit culture. You guys are constantly wearing swimmies at the beach and going to the pool and doing things outdoors. So I can understand it from that perspective, that there's a lot more time spent with less clothing on.
So we are going to do another episode because we'll wrap up today, but we are going to do another episode because Madonna and I did have an experience at the spa, which we haven't shared today. And we will.
Goodness gracious! Now, how can you start that and not let me?
We're going to go there. We're going to go there next podcast, Madonna, because that was that was a lesson for us. Yeah, it was interesting. But Madonna,
I was so grateful for that. Yeah.
Say that again. Sorry, honey.
I was grateful that you got to witness that as a friend. So that'll be a really great next podcast. Yeah.
next podcast, we're talking about our experience that we had at the spa around, body positivity. Thank you,
lovely lady. Yeah.
Thank you, my darling Madonna. As always, it's an absolute pleasure and joy to chat to you. I love you more than you could ever know, my darling, and your work in this world is just so empowering for me as a friend and as a woman. It is, it's just a great message. So thank you for today, my darling. And we will definitely resume in the month of, because you're away in the month of late October, we will resume with another podcast, if not November, and we'll discuss that. But Madonna, I'm going to pop in the show notes where people can find, because you've got your body positivity workshop coming up in October, and you have still got some spots left for those retreats in 2024. What have we got? We've got Italy, Amalfi Coast. We've got...
I've got Scotland. I'll be in Byron Bay. So if anybody in Australia wants to meet up with me, I've got a retreat in Byron Bay, which is incredible. And Emma will be at it. So, just be her. So lots of opportunities for people to, but really the main crux of my work right now is the body positivity workshop oh my gosh, I can't get my words out. The body confidence workshop, body positivity workshop, body confidence. Yeah, excuse me. That was my mistake. Body confidence workshop, and really just getting that work out there, because it's a beautiful 5-week turnaround for you and the way that you treat and speak to your body. And I really think I learned this with you. I hope you don't mind just 2 seconds here, but I learned this with you when you did your workshop with our ladies at my retreat in Byron. Where you taught them that by improving one area of your life, you're just going to improve the next area of your life, and that just up levels everything as a result. It's the same thing. By them choosing to come to Body Confidence Workshop and put in that time, right, they're going to up level all areas of their life, because they put in that effort and time, and they're telling themselves they're worthy of this change and shift, and that'll just transfer to everything in their life.
There is no greater investment than in oneself, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you, my darling. All of the links will be in the show notes. And yes, stay tuned for Madonna and I in Byron Bay next year, 2024, because I believe, I'm going to throw it out here, we're going to do a one-day workshop or an event.
Hell yeah.
Cannot wait.
Love it.
Thank you, my darling. Thank you, my darling. You're the best. I love you.
Love you too, honey.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I've created some free little resources for you. Head over to emmawalkinshaw.com.au/how to radiate inner calm. Here I've created a beautiful morning practice for you to ignite your morning magic. I would love to practice with you. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing with loved ones. This helps me reach more people. Have a wonderful day filled with love, laughter, and joy. Namaste, Emma.